This is Back to Back.
All right, here we go. Welcome to the show. This is Back to Back. My name is Willy Joy. How are you guys? How's everyone? How you feeling? I had a great weekend of doing absolutely nothing. No shows. I just recharged, did a little work, mainly caught up on some sleep. It was great. I highly recommend doing that every once in a while. How about you guys? What'd you do? Anyone out at the festivals? There are a couple big ones this weekend. Any good shows? Who'd you go see? Any good activities? Did you go on a hike? Did you adopt a cat? What'd you do? Anyway, whatever you did, I hope you had a great time. My guest on the show this week is none other than Valentino Khan, one of my favorite producers right now. Had a really great conversation with him. Right now, his new single, Pump, is out on Mad Decent, one of the craziest songs of the summer. He's got a video for that dropping soon, too. He just came off a really big play at EDC a couple weeks ago. I think he just posted up a little recap from that. You should go check it out. And right now, he's just starting his Europe tour. This dude's in Europe for pretty much the whole summer, playing at Tomorrowland, Perucaville, a bunch of big festivals. And it's a pretty big deal tour. We talk about that a little bit in the conversation you're about to hear. Really quick, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for the crazy response from last week's episode with Flostradamus. It was by far the biggest episode that we've had on the show so far. The biggest response, the most listeners, and the most feedback. I'm so stoked all you guys are really enjoying this. It was a special episode, and I really want to try to make the show more like that in the future. And I think also we've got a bunch of new listeners now who came on with the last episode. So what up to you guys? Thanks for being here. We're glad to have you. We got a lot of cool shit coming up for you. I want to hear from you guys too. I want to hear who else you'd like to see on the show, what topics you want to hear covered, any feedback. If you think my voice sounds stupid, well, you know what? Don't tell me that one. But anything else, send me an email at backtobackpod@gmail.com. I want to hear from you guys. Let's talk. Let's interact. And hey, if you like the show, don't forget to rate and review and subscribe on iTunes or Google Play, anywhere you're listening to the podcast. If you're listening on SoundCloud, leave me a comment. I just want to hear from you guys. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. I've said this a couple times on the show in past episodes. I'm going to say it one more time here, just because I really want to connect with you guys. If you send me a screenshot of you subscribing and rating and reviewing the show, send me a screenshot, backtobackpod@gmail.com, and let me know what I can do for you. If you've got a song you want some feedback on, if you've got some questions about issues in the industry, if you want to know how your hair looks in your last selfie, I'm happy to help you guys. We should all be supporting each other. So, send me some screenshots or some comments, and we'll talk. But how are you guys doing? I hope everyone's well. I'm just sitting here in my studio trying to get a bunch of work done before I leave for Japan in a couple weeks. I've never been to Asia at all. Really excited to get out there, travel around, play some shows, meet some people. And if you've been out there or you live out there, you need to let me know what I should do while I'm out in Japan, because I've got a bunch of time off in between shows and I need help. So I love Valentino Khan. I've always felt a strong kinship with the guy, and I never really realized why until this conversation, and now I've nailed it. It's because his name is fucking Valentino Khan. That's his real name, a name I never would have believed is his real name, just the same way that none of you guys ever believed that Willy Joy is my real name. But it is, and what could be a cooler name than Valentino Khan? And beyond that, I feel a bond with him because we both like interesting, weird styles of dance music, and neither one of us ever sticks to the same sound in our production. And that used to be something that gave me some anxiety, or at least made me think twice, because there's kind of this mentality in the electronic music world that you have to, kind of make the same thing and be in a scene, and that's really the way to grow your career, right? Is to sort of define yourself and say, I am a house artist, I am a trap artist, whatever it is. And I've never been able to do that. But then when I see someone like Valentino who doesn't stick to those, self-imposed rules either, it makes me feel better, because then I'm reminded that sometimes for longevity's sake, keeping yourself hard to define can be a valuable quality. Really, I think the point of this whole discussion that he and I had, and it's really awesome, we cover everything from his early days growing up in LA to his early productions, working with famous rappers, which some of you guys might not know. He used to produce for T.I. and 2 Chainz, and he's had a serious career even before he came to dance music. But really, I think what the whole conversation centers around is the idea of dopeness, and just what is dope to you, and staying true to really what you think is cool and what you think is dope, and not being too influenced by outside forces. And I think it's a great philosophy. I love the way he talks about it. It even gave me echoes of listening to old interviews with Kanye, who is also really interested in the concept of dopeness. And I like that because it's just something you can define for yourself. And as long as you're doing something you think is dope, then you're doing the right thing. And I think we could all take a page from Valentino's book on that one. So let's get into it right now. This is me and Valentino Khan back to back. Let's go. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You just came from LA?
I just came from LA. We all drove down here and tried to take a nap in the car. So I'm a little bit tired.
Can you do that?
I'm a little bit crazy. Nap in a car?
Yeah.
I can nap in a car. I can nap in a plane, so really? I can nap in a car, yeah.
Yeah, you're like a good napper.
I'm a pretty good napper.
I'm not a good napper, man.
No?
No, I don't know what it... I've gotten better as the years have gone by, because with this life, you have to be able to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like sleeping... I can sleep on a plane. Not like good sleep, but I can sleep.
Do you get a window seat, though?
I'm an aisle dude.
That's when we can curse on this thing, right?
Oh yeah.
That's why you're fucking up, man. Dude. I always get the window seat, because then you can put your head against the window.
It's true.
It's not the most comfortable pillow in the world, but it's like...
I feel like I'm like a little claustrophobic though. So when I'm on the window, I just feel like I'm penned in. Whereas with the aisle, I feel like I can kind of lean out and even though you're not really supposed to do that.
That's an issue then, yeah.
Yeah. So how was LA last night? It was sold out, right?
Yeah, sold out. An incredible crowd. I mean, that's my hometown, so it's always really, really special to do shows over there.
You were born in LA?
Born and raised in LA, yes.
What was that? What's growing up in LA like? Because I know what it's like to work in LA. I know kind of what it's like to live in LA. I've spent, short stints there. But I always wondered, if I ended up there for the rest of my life, because there's a good chance I'll end up there eventually. Mm-hmm. I don't know about raising kids there. What was your experience? What part of town did you grow up in?
I grew up in the Valley in LA, and it was growing up in LA was a really dope experience for me, because we have it's one of those few major cities around the world that is a real cultural melting pot. And we had every race, every kind of food, every everything you can imagine that you're exposed to so many different things that you might not necessarily get to see or do in other places. So I think that was a really unique experience for me. It was
So even as a little kid, you were running around different neighborhoods, eating all kinds of food.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, that's the fun part. And I mean, I love food, so
yeah,
that's definitely a plus.
I love food too. We should definitely talk about that.
Oh yes,
that's a problem. For me, I think food's maybe my one addiction. I don't have a super addictive personality. I don't have problems stopping myself from drinking or whatever. But
I mean, you know how it is when you're traveling. It's when I go to a city and I see the craziest thing on the menu, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be conservative and make the smart choice here. But then I'm like, I see the craziest thing on the menu, I'm like, well, I'm not going to get that. When am I going to be back here?
Yeah, you get one chance.
But that, and you always end up coming back to that city, but you always make that bad decision.
Yeah,
to,
you
like,
still, you would do it five times in a row.
Get the fried chicken smothered in gravy and whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't eat meat anymore. It was worse when I ate meat.
Yeah.
But even now, I just have a big sweet tooth, so I'll always go in on the desserts super
yes.
heavy. And I feel it's one of those things where promoters love to like treat you. You know, if you're in your town, they want to make a good impression. So then all the appetizers are free. It's like twice as much as you were planning on ordering.
Yeah,
it's a problem.
Yeah, like go ahead and order it. I'm like, oh really? Yeah, sure.
How do you do it? Do you work out? Do you like run it off?
I mean I don't know if you've ever seen me play. You've seen me play live.
Oh yeah,
probably, yeah. So I'm
you sweat it off.
I get a workout from playing live sets, man. Like,
you and me both.
Like, yeah,
man,
yeah. It just helps to be able to do that.
To focus back on LA for a minute, like how do you feel about LA sort of becoming the capital of dance music at this point? Like the world capital of dance music. You know, as someone who was born and raised there, I don't know. I don't know if 5 years ago that I would have made the call that it was going to be LA where everyone ended up and kind of where the heart of the scene was. Does it feel natural to you? Do you like that?
Yeah, but it's cool with me. I never had to move, so it really didn't affect me. But no. It makes sense. You know, I mean, dance music has just become more mainstream and more mainstream every year. So why wouldn't it be in the capital of music for the world? You know, like every record label is out in LA. Like all the studios out there. Everybody's collaborating, and you have this really good creative energy now in LA because everybody's moved out here. So
I mean, I feel like 5, maybe 8 years ago, there was LA, there was New York, there was Chicago to a certain extent. Now it's all just focused in LA. You go to New York, and I mean, there's still a ton of stuff popping off, but it's not that same energy.
I love New York for different reasons, man. But like, I have like my management lives in New York.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
shout out to Henley.
Yeah, shout out Henley. I see like when it's January and February and they got to shovel snow off their car, and I'm like, so wait, what? Tell me again, why the fuck you don't live in LA? Like, I love New York. I'm actually about to fly to New York after tonight. I'm flying to New York for a few days before I go to Europe. Yeah, I'm excited to go there. I'm excited that it's not the dead of winter right now. We're in like pretty much almost summer.
Yeah.
So
and New York in the summer is incredible.
Yeah, it's one of those cities that never sleeps. You could do anything at
100%, man. I mean, I'm not hating on them. Like, I was born and raised in Minneapolis. I lived in Chicago. Chicago was my
snow.
Yeah, man. So I'm down with the cold. I'm down to
Chicago is living in Chicago as a DJ just sounds like a nightmare because if you fly to O'Hare or Midway, like, it doesn't matter. There's constant flight delays. Anytime I get like flight routing out of Chicago, like I have to. Let's say I'm going to a smaller town, I can't take it direct, and I got to connect in Chicago. I'm like, is there any other route that like avoids Chicago airports? Because this is like,
it's true, man. But it kind of becomes like the devil, you know what I mean?
You plan for
it a little bit.
Do you buy backup flights then or what?
I mean, you show up early, like traffic is going to be fucked, like probably the flights are going to be delayed. You get that lounge pass, whatever it is. But the one thing I will say is that because it's in the middle of the country, there's no long flight to anywhere,
That's true, yeah.
So that, to me, was the advantage, that no matter where I was going, it was like a 2 hour
It's like 2 hours
flight.
no matter what. It's like a standard 2 hours, whereas like LA, if I'm going to New York, like tomorrow,
that's rough.
It's going to be like a 6 hour flight.
Yeah, and you lose 3 hours in the time change. So.
But on the way back, you get that 3 hours back.
That's true. Circle of life.
That is a good, exactly.
So, all right. So you're growing up in LA. Well, first of all, what did your parents do? Like, what was your childhood like?
I had a very musical family, and they were always like playing music around the house and stuff. So I always listened to really dope music. I listened to like Prince and James Brown.
That's what your parents were playing?
Yeah. I was very lucky to like be raised around really good music. So like I got to see all three of those people, Prince, James Brown, and Parliament, and George Clinton, I should say. I got to see all three of those people perform. I mean, Prince and James Brown obviously have passed away, but I got to see them all perform. I saw Prince at the Forum in Inglewood, which was it's probably the best concert I've ever been to in my life.
I believe that. James
Brown, I saw at the Hollywood Bowl, and then wait, you were there actually. I'm pretty sure.
Which time?
When we did the Mad Decent Culture Clash, Red Bull Culture Clash.
Oh, shit. I was there, yeah.
You were there.
I was actually hanging out there. I forgot about that.
And then George Clinton came out
That's
as our
right.
special guest.
Oh, man.
So you were standing right next to me. I technically performed with George Clinton.
Oh, my God.
Which is crazy.
That's incredible.
He had a big ass fur coat on, and like,
Of course he did.
I think his manager was telling like Paul Deborah, like it was like past his bedtime and shit. Like,
Did you have any interactions with him?
no, I'll tell you actually a story I haven't told before is Dim Mak had it was like Mad Decent versus Smog versus Dim Mak versus
Friends of Friends.
Friends of Friends, yeah. Right. So those were the 4 teams. So we'd go in for sound check, and nobody's like, it's a little bit of competition. It's a friendly competition.
Yeah.
But everybody was like, who's everybody's special guest? We don't know. And then so when I'm at sound check, I just see this like bald-headed dude start walking from across the floor of Exchange in LA. He comes up to me and he puts out his hand. He goes, "Hey, what's up, X-Man? It's DMX." And I go, "What's up, man?" He's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "I'm good." He's like, all right. And then he walks back over there, and that was like it was like a funny intimidation tactic.
You really think he was trying to psych you out?
You know what? We all said what happened is like Dim Mak was like, "Yo, we're gonna send DMX over to be like." Unless DMX was just being friendly with me. And
I mean, you never know. If he talks like that all the time, it's probably hard to tell.
Yeah. No, I mean he was mad cool, but like I think they just wanted to be like show us like, oh, this is who we got.
Right,
like, you're fucked. But they didn't end up winning actually. Smog ended up winning.
I remember that.
Because they brought out Too Short and Be Real, I think. And Smog like lives like their like home base is like across the street from there. So,
right.
yeah.
And that's some real like West Coast shit.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, they ended up winning.
Yeah, I mean, I figure like DMX just with that voice, even if he's saying something that's really nice, it still could sound threatening, you know?
Yeah. Why, yo. Yeah. Out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. If you started doing that, I might get worried.
He's like, where my dogs at? Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny like when you have those interactions with the legends like that. Like I remember once back in the day, because I used to DJ for Kid Sister, which I think is kind of around the same time I met you the first time. Yeah. And we did this show once with the Roots, like backing her up.
Oh, cool.
And so, you know, in the same way that like you were on stage with Clinton, I can say like I performed with the Roots.
Yeah,
you know?
that's awesome, man.
Those moments, I don't know. Those are some of the most fun moments in the music game to me. Yeah, just those little connections. Like it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't help me. It doesn't, help my career, but it's just those moments. Those
sort of random instances.
It's what you'll always remember.
Yeah, totally.
So you're listening to Prince, you're listening to James Brown, and what's the age where you kind of start being aware of rap music, of pop music, of more modern music?
I grew up listening to hip hop.
Okay, so you were on rap radio early.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being like 4 or 5 years old and like driving back from like watching a Lakers game at the Forum and fucking listening to like Snoop and Dre and Warren G on the radio. You know what I mean?
That's the most LA sentence you could possibly say.
Yeah, so I mean that gives you an idea.
Yeah. When did it start? Or when did you start thinking about music as something you could do, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah. I was almost going to segue into that. I knew you were getting at that. Yeah, I think I didn't really know what a producer was until maybe I was like 12 or 13. I didn't know like, and I knew it from a hip hop perspective. So I was like, that's the guy that makes the beats. Cause like, I appreciate good lyrics, but I always was just naturally attracted to the instrumental behind it.
Yeah.
Just before I knew what I wanted to do, just since I was a kid,
Were you playing instruments?
No, not yet. I think when I first started being aware is like Timbaland, really, because I was like, I'd be like, who's this guy that like is doing the ad libs on all the Missy songs, but he also makes his own songs. And then like they would I think sometimes on certain songs they would shout out like Timbaland on the beat and shit. You know what I mean? So and I was like, so Timbaland makes the music behind all this shit. I was like, cool. And then I was like, I know Dre does that too. And then at the same time, I really, really, really got into the Neptunes, like Pharrell, Chad Hugo, Chad Hugo apparently just retired.
Yeah, on Twitter.
On Twitter, yeah.
But then I saw some other posting saying that
He's
it
like,
was
nah, I'm back.
fake. Yeah, I don't know.
You got hacked or whatever?
Yeah, I don't know about hacked, but it was
yeah.
like his representatives were like,
right.
no, that's he who made a joke.
But anyway, yeah. So yeah, it was like Dre, Timbaland, Neptunes for me, and then I
So that was like late 90s, early 2000s.
early 2000s, and then I was like, oh, this is really dope. And then at the same time, I just started trying to make music, and I had this old, really shitty software. You probably have heard of it, a Cool Edit Pro.
When I had Diplo on the show, we were talking about Cool Edit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I got to talk to Wes about that. Yeah, I didn't know he fuck with Cool Edit.
Yeah, back in the day.
Actually, the only other dude that I've talked to that said he either started out on Cool Edit or he just was using it early on. I forget what he said. Was Lex Luger actually?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's dope.
And I was like, oh wow, like that's so cool. It's just cool when you see people that came up using a really obscure means of production, obscure software to do all that shit. So
well, because back in the day, I mean, we just didn't have the resources that we have now.
Oh, dude, like now it's just like, and I'm not mad at it. It's like it's a great thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's just that technology is advanced in terms of production software to the point where like there's like 11-year-old kids like picking it up like now and like making like dope shit
and by the time they're 12,
they don't even understand, like your brain isn't like developed enough to like write like a hit song yet or a dope song yet, but you can tell it like at least their mix downs sound great, which I'm like, wow.
Yeah, it's insane.
You know what I mean?
And then
there's all these sample packs that are like your snares are like perfect, your kick drums are perfect.
Right, yeah, it's all
I didn't
out
have
there.
that, you know what I mean? So
no, I mean, it just, to me, having all that at your fingertips just unlocks other areas where people can be creative.
Yeah.
Instead of spending 10 hours to get a great snare, you can just put the great snare in and do something else interesting.
I totally get that, yeah. But yeah, so I would start out on Cool Edit Pro. I would basically just like look up, who did the Wu-Tang Clan sample? Oh, who did NWA sample? Oh, it's like Gladys Knight, whatever, download all that shit.
Yeah.
And like, we were talking about the evolution of technology. I've talked to like people like, old school guys that came before me, like Just Blaze, like Green Lantern, like those guys like would like literally have to go to a record shop and dig. Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day too. They would take a portable record player to the record shop.
Right.
And their own headphones and
just scan it for
samples. And then if you liked that, you had to buy it. And then you had to like retrack all that shit in. Whereas not like I was just double clicking. So I was very lucky. I at least grew up in an era that was that technologically.
Right.
Yeah. So I would just like look at, who do they sample? And then I'd find my own samples. Like I never put out any of these beats, but I would just take drums. Because this was like really early on. I would take drums from like Neptunes and Dre and Timbaland and like Kanye West and stuff, and like I would put them underneath my beat and I make it. But then there came a time where I'm like, man, I can't make anything dope today because I have no cool samples that I downloaded. At the same time, like people like Neptunes and Scott Storch were coming up, and I was like, I see what they're doing.
Right.
Playing
it instead of sampling.
Yeah. My parents got me a Triton keyboard for my birthday. And I only wanted the Triton because somebody told me that's what the Neptunes use. And there's a lot of stock sounds in the Triton that like the Neptunes still had. Or putting in their beats.
They kind of broke that open.
Yeah, like the grinding, like the beat for clips is like it's all in there.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I think they put some like effects that treated the drums, but yeah, it's all in there.
Yeah.
So I got a Triton keyboard when I was a kid, and then I just slowly learned and taught myself how to play a piano. I'm not like Mozart on the piano or anything, but I can play it well enough to make good music.
Yeah, that's all you need. I mean, and there's incredible producers out there who don't even know how to play the piano.
There's people like writing notes in. I'm like, oh wow, I could never do. I think I've made very few pieces of music where I've written the notes in and then like kept it, like literally drawn it in the piano roll in the software. Yeah. For those at home that don't understand what the fuck I'm talking about, I'm trying to like visually
for our listeners at home.
Like from the drums to like the synths to everything melodically, I always like played it on a piano. I just like having that like live feel to it, and it helps me just like get a vibe for the music.
Sure.
It's like, not to hate on drawing in notes manually by hands, but like that for me personally gets like kind of stale because it's like I'm just looking at a screen and I'm like sort of sequencing it without really hearing the music at the same time. I like to like keep it loose and like
like look away from the screen for a minute,
like vibe out with it
physically.
I don't have to look at the screen, I'm playing the piano, So that's how it works for me. But like I'm not into like snobbery in any form or fashion. I'm like whatever helps best execute your creative vision, like use that. Like I get questions from like kids that are coming up on Twitter that are like, what's your secret production software? What's your secret this and that? I'm like, there's no real secret, man. I just use what works for me. And like what works for me might not work for you. What works for you might not work for me. Yeah. But like that, it doesn't matter. Like it's try a bunch of different shit and stick with the thing that helps you maximize your creative potential.
Exactly.
That's all I say,
yeah, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. I mean, didn't a kid make a beat off Kendrick's new album on his iPhone? I was reading.
I wouldn't doubt it, man.
Yeah, I think that's true.
You can make beats on your iPhone now, so it's like.
Well, and so was anyone else around you doing that? Like, did you have a crew of people, or were you kind of just off on your own?
That was like. I mean, if you knew me back then, that it was just me that was doing that. There was other kids that like kind of got into it, like there were like amongst my peers and my friends, but like nobody was like devoted to it like me, and like
that was kind of my situation in Chicago before I met kind of the Chicago crew. But yeah, when I first moved there, it was the same way.
Yeah,
had some friends who were into it, but they wouldn't want to spend the time I was spending or quit the jobs I was quitting.
yeah, totally. I mean, it's like if you found what you love and you're spending your free time doing it and like just trying to get perfect your skills and get as great at it as you possibly can, then that's all you kind of need to know. You kind of know your direction. It kind of speaks volumes.
And you were saying about the kids who ask you for your secret, and I get the same thing sometimes. And really, the only secret is that you just have to outwork everyone else. You just have to work really hard and practice every day. And it's like the most bummer, boring secret. But
no, that's whenever. Because I get the more general question too from people that are up and coming, like, what advice do you have for an up and coming like DJ or producer like me? I'm like, learn how to make your own music, be as original as you can, and work your ass off. That's it.
Right.
If there's a formula, that's it. That's the general formula.
There's no secret sauce.
That's really the only trick.
At what point did you start letting people hear what you were working on? How old were you at this point?
When I like first started to make beats, probably like 13 or 14. Okay, and I would just play it from like my friends and family. It all just came together like for me when I was in my 20s, like where I started getting placements with rappers. Like I did stuff for like T.I. and 2 Chainz and B.O.B. And
so how did that come about?
I just like sent beats to them. And then,
I mean, how did you even, like back in those days, how did you even know where to send them?
It was on the internet. I forget how I really, got in touch with them.
Down.
Yeah, I did. I sent beats and
so just cold calling worked, man.
It was a little bit of that. I mean, it was a little bit of like just sending it over and they got it done. And
I mean, I'm sure once you did the first one, then you can say I did a beat for this guy.
Yeah, it's a resume thing, of course. Right, like with any job, people forget that like this is, even though it's a weird, unconventional lifestyle, it still is a job, and there's a lot of parallels that you can.
Absolutely.
You can draw from that in a different industry.
Yeah. Well, and even on that note, for our listeners, there's probably a bunch of people kind of wanting to get into the game. And I think it's important to point out, like you just said, you just sent your music to these people without knowing them and just put it out there. And sometimes, if you're good and you send it out, good people will respond.
But I see that happen with dance music too. And that's that's what I love about the culture of what we're involved with is like, I mean, people have done it for me too. Like people have given my music exposure, like, Diplo and Skrillex. And I remember Bro Safari early on was like playing all my stuff out.
I remember that too.
Yeah, it was like Dylan Francis, one of the first people to like support my shit. So it's like it really half the trick is like not being annoying when you're hitting somebody up.
Yeah.
Also, I've also come to learn, just because you don't hear back, this is more me giving advice to anybody that's like coming up and listening, but like just because you don't hear back from somebody doesn't mean that A, they didn't like it, or B, they didn't hear it. It doesn't mean either of those things necessarily, because I even still to the like current day, I've sent stuff to people that like they might just be too busy to reply, and then
100%.
Then you see him in real life, and like, oh dude, I've been playing that record out. I was like, oh sick, man.
I didn't even know you heard it
or liked it because I sent it and I didn't hear back.
Yeah.
So you have to like just stay humble when you're sending all that shit out, and just not be annoying, and like Yeah, because that's
Well,
the
and
biggest
just no
turnoff.
expectations. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you have something you're really proud of, first of all, make something you're really proud of,
Yeah.
you know, and don't send out something before you're sure about it.
Yeah.
And then once you have it, send it out there and be confident in it. And, you know, you can't expect anything back. But if you present a good piece of work in a confident way and don't bother people about it, that's when they're really going to start fucking with you.
Yeah. And also, this is more of a personal preference for me, is like, I don't need you to, like, if you're sending an email, I don't need you to, like, describe
Right.
what the song, like, just let me listen to it. Like, you know what I mean? It's unnecessary.
The
it's
more
like,
description, the less I'm psyched about listening to it.
well, I was talking about it this the other day. I was like, people are just starting to, like, make up new, like, hybrid genres where they're just like, this is my deep ambient trap bounce
Step.
song. Yeah, like, I'm like, why don't you just say this is my new song? Like, if it gets to that point, like, are you trying to, like, create some new shit, or just like, just send me the music? Let me just listen
let
to
the
it,
music
you know?
talk, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Let the music talk. I always giggle too, like when you get record label promos with really flowery language about the song they're trying to send you. You know, like the skittering hi hats.
Yeah, yeah. They'll use adjectives that I did not know were, like, in the English language, and I was like, oh wow, that's a word.
Yeah. No, it's like deep dictionary promos.
Yeah, I've gotten quite a few of those. Yeah, where they're just like, you got to, like, search for synonyms of like of the word rough.
Yeah, it's like they can't just write like this is a banger 100 times, so they feel like they gotta get fancy.
But you know, you hit it on the head. It's just like the music does the talking for you, man. It's like, I think one of the best examples in, like, our game is like GTA. Like, those, I mean, I love those dudes. They're my friends and stuff. But, like, I've just known those guys since they were coming up, and, like, they never, like, fucking hype their music up to anybody. You know,
right?
That's not even their personality.
No,
you know
they're
what I
so
mean?
humble.
Yeah. So and like, all of us rinse their records because they're dope. That's it. And they let the music do the talking for them. So,
yeah, they make the best records, so of course we're gonna play them.
Yeah, I think it's a good example to set.
Speaking of GTA, you know, you guys sort of came up around the same time.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that when you made a transit. I don't want to overshadow your hip hop production because I know you were heavy in that. But when you started getting into the dance music world, how did that come about? How did that switch happen from hip hop to dance music?
It wasn't ever really a switch. It's just they both kind of happened at the same time.
Right.
Really. You know, I started producing for other artists and getting placements, and at the same time, my artist side of things took off. You know, I'm still producing for other artists and stuff, and writing records that are more in the, you know, rap pop world and stuff.
Are you doing that kind of behind the scenes, like you've done?
No, I'm still doing it. I mean, my artist side is obviously it's been pushed to the forefront of things, just because I've been having a lot of success with it, and it's consumed a lot of my time. Like, that's the biggest problem I run into is time.
Not enough.
That's it.
Yeah, it's true, man. And not enough hours.
That's just I'm just talking about my career. Like, that obviously bleeds into your personal life as well. It's like, do I have time to do normal shit now? You know what I mean? So but I'm not complaining. It's like, you know, I'm very fortunate to be able to do what I love for a living. Not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah, well, it's what we all deal with, man. I think we all, to live this weird lifestyle that we live, you make certain sacrifices of, you know,
completely
not being able to hang out with your friends all the time, or not being able to go see the newest movie or whatever it is. And you know, I don't think any of us would change it.
Honestly, you said you can't see it. I don't watch movies anymore.
Really?
Because I don't watch current movies anymore. Sometimes I'll watch them on the plane.
Yeah.
But it's kind of sad to say that out loud, isn't it? But I just don't, because I'm like, okay, this is at least a 2-hour time commitment for me, and it's probably gonna, like, I'm probably not gonna like it, or it's gonna be like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, I'll see something if I'm, like, really hyped about it, but even then it's just like, I could have been productive. Like, 2 hours is, like, way more valuable to me now than,
I mean, I feel like
I was talking to somebody about Elon Musk the other day.
Yeah.
He was telling me Elon Musk, like, an hour of his time is apparently worth like $2 million.
That's pretty good.
If you're changing the world, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can get to the point where an hour of my time is worth.
I was going to say, I wonder what an hour of my time is worth right now. It's not $2 million. It's more like $2.
Well, I mean, it depends what hour you're talking about.
Right,
If you talk about your booking rate, then it's a little bit.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
You get booked for more than $2.
That's every once in a while. Yeah.
Every once in a while, yeah.
Trying to get
on a good night.
Trying to get that $5 show.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
You get the wife and kids like, baby, we're going to McDonald's.
You can have one item.
Yeah.
We'll split it.
I didn't answer your question though. You asked what was the transition like into dance music?
Right.
Yeah, I got into it because my brother showed me Justice, Waters and Nazareth. I was walking by his room one day and like I randomly heard that and I was like, what the fuck is this?
Older brother?
Younger brother.
Younger, okay.
Yeah. And he was like, oh yeah, it's Justice. And they're really dope. And he had been listening to like European harder house shit that was coming out at the time, and I was like, all right, whatever. I was like, I'm gonna still listen to rap. Like, you go ahead and do you. But then I heard that record, and like it changed everything for me. And I started to listen more and more to dance music. It was like the Blockhouse era.
Oh yeah.
So like,
I
was
Justice was what set all of that off.
I was going to like all those. Like I was downloading from all the blogs back then.
Literally Bloghouse,
and it was all like fucking free back then.
It's amazing.
Like, not to say that like it's like dance music has become this like booming record selling industry right now, because it's still more of an industry that survives off of live touring.
Yeah.
I would say.
That's true.
Unless you're like the Chainsmokers or some shit. Then,
right.
You know.
But I mean, they're making pop at this point, right?
Basically, yeah. I mean, good for them though.
Oh yeah, I love those dudes.
Totally. But that was how I got into it, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to make this music, and then long story short, I just got better and better at it, and oh wow, you got a DJ. Oh, okay. I gotta learn how to DJ, and then
Yeah, so you were very much producer first.
I was producer first. Yeah, that's always been my background.
What was your first show like?
That DJ'd?
Yeah, like first live show.
It's a really like smaller bar, and because back then it was like it wasn't as widespread as it is now. Like I got into it like at the perfect time. I'm so glad I got into dance music when I got into it, because now it's just become.
It'd be tough now.
It's just become so crowded. I mean, I think I would probably figure out a way to find the same success.
You'd be all right, but
it's a good thing. I put it this way: it's a good thing and a bad thing that it's gotten more popular. It sucks because it's harder to have your voice be heard and have your music be heard now, because it's so crowded. But at the same time, there's a bigger audience for it.
That's
now.
exactly
and
right.
That's a great thing for all of us. And I think that overshadows that minor negatives.
No, I completely agree.
If you're able to make this into a career, then your career can be more successful now because more people have been exposed to this music and more people enjoy it.
And it's such an exciting time.
Yeah.
The music is evolving so much faster now because so many more people are contributing and having new ideas and pushing each other forward. For me, that's how I feel I get better a lot of the times, is I'll hear something someone else did and just be like, what the fuck is this? Or like mad that I didn't make it, or, any of those feelings. And that pushes me to get back in the studio and make something crazy of my own. And the more times that happens to me, the more motivated I feel. I don't know. Are you that way? Like, can you hear something someone else made, it's really good, and get inspired, and you kind of want to top them? Like, are you a competitive dude that way?
Yeah, I would say so. It's not competitive in like a negative way where I'm like, I want to end their career or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's completely in my personality, and I think it's really just about, like you said, it's more about like I've been in, like I've never put out like a dubstep song or whatever, but like I've been in the studio with like Kill the Noise, and I've heard some like fucking sick shit that he made, and I'm like, man, that's so dope. I don't want to, or maybe I can't even make a song that sounds exactly like that, but just like hearing that he made some dope shit, like it inspires me to just go into the studio and make some dope shit of my own.
Yeah, or maybe you hear a technique he used that you could incorporate into what you're doing.
I'm sure it's happened before.
Any of that.
Yeah.
So you're starting to make are you trying to make Justice style music back then?
I probably had a few like Justice sounding beats. I made like shit that sounded like Boys Noise too. And like, kind of Bloody Beat Roots-ish too. Those were like the dudes I kind of came up on.
Yeah.
All like the Ed Banger era.
That was such a crazy movement back then.
So important, man. Like all those guys, that was like the crew that really, really broke things in America, and got people from the mainstream of America to start it. it lit the fire for people to start to accept dance music.
Well, because they came in like rockers, basically, right?
Because they had that punk rock edge to them. Like if you listen to like one of my favorite records is Dog by Sebastian. Do you know that record?
I do actually. Yeah, I haven't thought about that record in a long time.
He sampled like some like fucking metal band or some punk band or something like that.
Yeah,
and it's just screaming.
Yeah, I know exactly the record.
And I love that shit because it's so raw, but it still has the French electro drums behind it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
like
So
little sidechain pump
it was so I love that record because it was like the biggest version of what they were going for because it was like hard ass electro shit.
But for a stadium.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like there was a lot of musicality in that. Like you listen to the Justice records. I mean, forget like the recent stuff, which is very musical, but like even the earlier shit. Like you were like they put out Planisphere.
I do remember that,
yeah. Like that was like film score type shit, you know?
Right,
So
yeah. It wasn't all just dance music, all club stuff.
There was a lot of the breakdowns would be very musical, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you could tell there was kind of more going on there. And so at what point do you feel like you started developing kind of the signature Valentino Khan sound that, you know, I feel like your fans would know you for at this point? Because it was the Moomba Tone days when I first started really hearing about you.
It's hard for me to say that I have a signature sound. I just try to, my music, I've always made it a point to be really versatile with it.
Right.
And
I should say like signature style. I feel like I can hear a song and be pretty sure you made it, even though it might sound totally different.
It's hard for me I guess it's hard for me to be objective about that. Like, because...
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah, so even though, like, you know, like, I'll make, like, a 150 BPM, like, fucking almost hard style sounding record and, like, compare that to, like, say, like, Deep Down Low or something that, or, like, new single, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you can hear, like, the similarities in those still?
Yeah, I mean, it's... I think part of it is the way it's mixed and mastered. Because I think you have a crazy engineering side.
Thanks,
that we should talk about a little later. But yeah, there's something... I don't know. I've always felt like a kinship with you as far as music goes, because like we don't know each other super well, but every time I hear your songs, I can relate to them because it's the same things that I like to do in my music.
Same energy.
Yeah, same energy and like new sounds and interesting sounds and kind of maybe doing things the way you're not supposed to do them and making that cool.
Completely.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just a personal thing. Maybe I personally just relate to the music.
I mean, maybe it is like breaking the rules a lot, and I do that a lot on the mixing side. Like I never, one of the guys that inspired me and gave me tips too early on, like in terms of mixing was Bro Safari.
Yeah,
that was like, oh, I want to get my drums to sound as good as his. You know, I eventually just got better and better at it. But like, I've taken advice from people, but I've always like been like, oh, does that work for me or does that not work for me? And then just fucking
put your own.
I've like done my thing with it, like put my own
swag on it.
Yeah, like I don't really put any rules and regulations to what I do in terms of like mixing or sound design or whatever. It's just like, if it sounds good, then it sounds good. Like
end of the day.
That's that.
It's just got to bang.
Yeah.
So how did you start getting into, was Bro Safari kind of one of the early guys you met who you said he supported your music early on?
Right, yeah.
And you were making a bunch of Moomba Tone style stuff at the time?
Yeah, and that was like, especially coming from LA, that was really what was like kind of popping off. And, obviously Dave and Matt Nodestrom spearheaded that.
Shout out to Nodestrom, shout out to Dave Nada.
And Dylan was the first guy I think was taking that sound, but almost making like sort of electro records. Like he like the earlier Dylan stuff was like, it was more Latin flavored.
Right.
It was still like electronic version of it.
But still had that like bump.
Yeah. But then he went through like a phase where it just became almost kind of like electro records at that tempo.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where it's like really like kind of like dubsteppy, really distorted
just his own
noises.
style.
Yeah. So like he took it and evolved that, I think. So like that's kind of the era that I came up with, where I was like, oh, like this is a fun tempo to fuck around with and make some cool shit.
Yeah.
But then there became like the trap phase, and we're gonna make trap music now. It's like, all right, cool. So I just sort of waited for the right time to do that. to jump into that, and then so on and so forth. There's been like a billion new genres.
Every day.
Like we were just talking about. Like now there's like genres, sub-genres. You know, it's like, all right, whatever. So I'm just fucking make whatever I want and just make it dope. You know.
Yeah. Well, I think the first time I met you was kind of back in those Moombahton days. I remember. I don't know if you remember this, but
I'm trying to think where we met.
Well, I'm pretty sure I remember because I think it was in L.A. You were with Titsworth at some bar, and I just like was there. We were all chilling. Nobody was DJing, and I just met you guys out of the bar.
That makes sense.
It was like a small bar. What was that spot that like Mike B used to play at all the time?
Mike B probably was there. I know it sounds like.
This is like, for our listeners, a deep LA
This
dive.
is really, Shout out Titsworth and Mike B.
Yeah, amazing DJs both. Yeah. And shout out again to Dave Nada, because if you think about the Moombahton days, not only is that when I think so many people became aware of people like you and people like GTA and, a million other people, but that genre has now influenced pop music so
100%.
much. And it's so wild to, for just like this crazy idea that our friend Dave had to slow down these house records.
Slow down Dutch house records for his Latino cousin.
Yeah, man.
At his dishing school day,
Yeah. So he's just playing these records for these 13-year-olds.
Yeah.
And from that, we get, 5 years later, we get pop smash records that are huge around the world. It's amazing to me to see that idea like from start to where it is now.
Yeah, dude, if you listen to the radio now, it's all like influenced by Moombahton. Like it just came back full circle, Not just because of that reason. I mean, Dave is just an all-around nice guy too, but it just additionally, I think that's why we all still show him love and pay respect to Dave because
he's the best dude.
Yeah, I mean, he really like through what he created, like kind of helped all of us kind of get a start at least. Like not just like I don't know if all of us are necessarily making the same sound as we were back in the day, but it was definitely a jumping off point for a lot of us.
And it was a community that he built, right?
Because 100%.
We all met each other.
That's how I met like GTA. That's how I met Bro Safari.
Yeah.
Probably how we met.
Yeah, right around those same times.
Et cetera.
To finish my story about meeting you, it's not that interesting of a story, but I was just going to say that, we all hung out at that bar, and I was stoked to meet you because I dug your music. And then I was double stoked because you were just like a nice, normal dude who was cracking jokes and chill and hanging out. And I had been on this string. There's so many crazy people in the music industry. And like, I feel like we're similar in that when we're just not DJing, our energy is pretty chill, pretty low key. Just nice, polite.
Yeah, I mean, we're not like introverts, but at the same time, we're like, I'm not like running around town like fucking blacking out and
exactly
hiding bodies under the bridge.
Yeah, it just felt like meeting a kindred spirit. It was dope. I still remember that night. So from the Moombahton days, and that's kind of when you started meeting the bigger dudes too, right? The Diplos and the Skrillexes. How did you first link up with Diplo?
That's funny, actually. So it's funny you say that because the venue that I sold out last night, the Belasco in LA, was the first time I met West face to face. First time I met Diplo face to face. I linked up with him. Oh wow, this is still more full circle because we're sitting here in San Diego.
Oh shit!
The first time I ever talked to him. I talked to him on the phone. So I played the first show I played. This girl was a promoter. She brought me down from LA to play in San Diego. Really, really small bar, El Dorado.
Oh, yeah. I played there way back in the day.
Yeah. They had like a Moombahton party back there. So I played it. And then, so I played that. One of us was like, yo, let's go to the zoo the next day.
San Diego Zoo.
Yeah, San Diego. Shout out San Diego Zoo. Amazing zoo.
I'm a full-time member there. I got my card.
Oh, wow. Big business.
Not to flex on you.
No.
Yeah.
So, the next day after I played that show, the first single I ever put out on Mad Decent, which really was the first single I released on like one of the major independent dance music labels, that came out on Mad Decent the next day. And I remember Diplo followed me on Twitter. We started talking on Twitter, and I was like, hey, thanks for putting out my record. And he was like, we talked back and forth and exchanged phone numbers. And then I was like, cool. I thought that was the end of it. And then we started talking. We were talking about working on music together over Twitter. And then he called me about on the phone about 10 minutes later while I was like looking at snow leopards at the San Diego Zoo.
Specifically snow leopards?
It was specific. I remember I was looking right at these snow leopards.
That's tight.
And my phone rang from an unidentified number. I was like, hey, hello? And he's like, hey, what's up? It's Diplo.
All right, I just real quick, you've nailed the Diplo impression and the DMX impression. So we got to see what other
I had
ones
trouble
you
with the DMX impression because my DMX was getting too exhibit. It was like, yeah. Well, now I did a better DMX impression. Now I feel like when I do an exhibit impression,
You're thinking about it too much now.
Yeah, I'm overthinking it. I know I can pull off both.
You did. In this, the
Thank
tape
you.
will prove that you did.
We'll rewind it.
Yeah. All right. But Diplo gives you a call.
Diplo gives me a call, and then we started talking about working on music. Long story short, we ended up, co-producing a Bubble Butt together for Major Lazer.
Yeah.
Which was like, that was like really, somebody pointed out to me the other day, that was like really one of the, I don't even know, one of the first, that was probably the first Major Lazer record that wasn't super dance hall influence with the beat. And it was starting to like get into that pop world, which they're in now.
Yeah, that's true.
Where they're sort of fusing, they're still taking the Jamaican, Trinidad and all that shit, like all that influence, but it's turning into a pop format. That was, and it was just a rap beat. Like that was probably the first time, really. What happened was I didn't know when I was working on that. I didn't know that it was from Major Lazer, and if I knew that, I probably wouldn't have like worked a rap beat under it. So because I'd heard that like the earlier version of it. Before I got involved, it was like just a demo, and I was like, let's turn this into a rap song, because it sounds like a rap song to me. Like Tiger wasn't even on the record back then.
Okay.
But yeah, then I sent Wes back the version that I did, and he was like, oh, this is like really dope. It doesn't sound like Major Lazer at all, but like it's like so dope that like we got to put it on the album.
Right.
So I was like, cool, and then finished the record, and that was my first interaction with Diplo.
That's dope, man. I feel like every time you work with Diplo, you're never really sure what you're working on is for.
He's got his hands in so many things, man. That like,
I never know how he can even keep track, because each song has like 60 versions that are all on his laptop.
Yeah,
and everyone's working on like a slightly different version.
He's got the best ear though, man. Like
that's his skill, right? He's the curator.
He doesn't really miss, man. Like he's really smart musically, and he's got a really smart vision about what all of his music wants to sound like.
Yeah. Well, I look at him in a similar way to the way I look at Kanye, where it's, they're talented in a lot of different ways, but really the true skill to me is their curation of sounds, whether it's...
At the end of the day, it's like what it boils down to is like your goal is to give something dope to people. And you have to know, is this dope or is this not dope? And if you know this is dope, then give it to the people and you have a skill.
Yeah.
That goes a long way. And I think like more than like music theory, what I've learned just in the last few years is just like what my vision of dope is, and I've learned how to execute that.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, and that's what artistry is, right? Is sort of, figuring out a way to take what you think is cool in your head and make other people understand why it's cool, or, present it in a cool way. And that's definitely what Diplo does too. I guess what I was trying to say is just, the way he does it is combining sounds or combining artists, or just what you were saying, where you took a song that wasn't a hip-hop song and turned it into a hip-hop song, kind of taking the route that maybe other people wouldn't take. Yeah. And so he can make those connections that, other people might just not even think about.
He always has an unconventional way of doing things. And I think that's what probably appealed to working with me. Yeah. Initially for him was, that my sound was really different, and I have really weird sounds that like not necessarily everybody else was doing. So that's why I was interested too, is because like all of his records sound really, really different.
And what I like about hearing you talk about your evolution, and, you were making hip-hop beats, you worked with rappers, you were doing Moombahton, then you made the hip-hop beat for Major Lazer, and now you're making, anything you want to make. But throughout all of it, it seems like you've kind of just been doing you the whole way,
Oh, yeah, completely.
And I think...
I don't want to sound like anybody else.
Yeah. And I love that from day one, it's basically, my understanding is you were just doing what you wanted to do and doing what you thought was dope. Yeah. And I think that's a lesson that our listeners could take too, as far as, you don't have to copy the hot sound. You just have to do what you think is dope.
I've been at crossroads in my career where I was like, oh, this shit's popping off. Like this X genre is popping off. You could be the X genre guy. Just make nothing but X genre.
Right.
And do it and constantly put it out and brand yourself that way. But I'm like, you know what? No, that's not what I want to do. For me, personally, it's for me, I would get bored if I made the same thing over and over.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. And B, I just think that there's more longevity in just being dope. And that's what you're known for. You're just known as an artist that is dope.
Yeah.
You're not known as this, this guy that makes this certain style of music, because styles come and go. Like look at Moombahton. Like everybody was like, oh, Moombahton is dead like a couple of years ago, even though it was hot like 5 years ago or whatever.
Right.
And now it's basically pop radio.
Yeah.
It's as hot as it's ever been.
Yeah, it couldn't be
You know what I
bigger.
mean? Like, so like shit comes in waves, man. Like you have to be able to you're not going to fucking dictate the way this shit's going to go all the time. You know what I mean? You have to be able to be flexible.
Well, and you have to be authentic to yourself, right? You have
while being authentic to yourself.
Yeah, and just making what you want to make instead of what you think people want to hear.
You have to just only focus on being dope, like I was saying.
It all comes back to being
It all
dope.
just comes back to that, yeah.
Well, so on that note, as far as not copying yourself or not doing the same thing over and over, let's talk about Deep Down Low. Mm-hmm. How did that record come about? Were you, when you were making it, were you thinking anything different, or was it the same, just trying to make a dope record?
No, man. I wanted to make something that was like, I felt like a lot of my records, like the synths on them were really high, like in the high pitch range.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make something that was like in the low range. And for the longest time, I felt like I couldn't make cool like bass sounds, like they were like low, that were like to my liking.
Yeah.
I like finally just fucking figured it out. One night I made the beat for it at like fucking 4 a.m. I was like half awake, and then I listened back to it the next day, and I was like, oh, it's kind of a cool beat, but like it's missing vocals on top of it.
Right.
And I swear, like Deep Down Low was the first idea that came to my head. I recorded it in the mic, and that's that.
Sometimes that's the best way, man.
Dude, honestly, there's a lot of the best stuff I've done. It comes to you quick, and that doesn't mean that you rush the record. It just means that like you were so sure of your vision, and you knew exactly how to fucking nail it, and you nailed it. Sometimes it's easy because you know exactly what you want to accomplish,
right?
And you're driven with like a purpose when you're making music.
But I think your point, the core of it, is a good one. That if you have a good idea, just go with it.
Oh, completely. There's been so many times where I've like been mad at myself but it's necessary. It's very necessary, because I'll be about to like call it a night. I've already like worked my ass off like late to the AM, like 6 a.m. in the studio, and then like sometimes I'll like take a shower before I go to bed, and then I'm like, oh shit, well, I just thought of this other idea. I gotta go back and lay it down, and then like sometimes that ends up being an amazing idea that you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I put in those extra 2 hours, even though I was like fucking dead tired.
Right.
And I came up with this idea that I had to lay down, otherwise I'm going to forget.
Yeah, you'll lose it real fast.
Yeah. Or sometimes you do that and you're like, man, what the fuck? I just stayed up to 10 a.m. I'm completely thrown off now. You know what I mean? So
totally. And it's not always the winning idea, but
but you have to. My point is you don't always know if it's going to work out, but you have to take that risk. You have to lay those ideas down. You know what I mean? Like,
so with Deep Down Low, were you surprised to see it blow up to the extent that it did? Because it was kind of like a sleeper record for a while, right?
It's sort of like here's the thing is like I made it. And I thought, oh, this is probably going to be like a cool record that like my peers play out. Like I thought like maybe like Wes played out, like Skrillex played out, like my homies would play it out.
Yeah.
But then they all ended up doing that actually in a bigger way than I thought. But what really took it off is like it came out like we released it like I think it was like either the week before or the same week as Ultra Music Week in Miami.
It was on a compilation, right? Originally?
Yeah, exactly. And then people like like Axel and Agrosa were like one of the first like people from the other world, the world of like big festival.
Yeah. House, progressive house, whatever you want to call it.
They started playing it, and I mean, shout those guys out because really nice guys, and they really supported the record and took it to a different level.
Yeah.
And then you started to see like, oh, Calvin Harris is playing it now, Avicii's playing it, Afrojack's playing, like these DJs from a completely different world that I never thought would play that record. Yeah, it really took off.
It was a crossover record in a big way.
I mean, it ended up being the number one in 2015. It was the most played song by all DJs, and then like even last year, it was still the number 8 song.
Wow,
most played song. So like, I'm just really. Like, it was really a record. My point is like, it's a record that has been really driven by, my peers in the same world as me. So I'm just really grateful that everybody has like supported it to that degree.
Did it change anything for you? Did it change the way you approach production or anything, the way you thought about your own music?
Well, I was starting to realize that like, if you can execute something in the simplest form, but it's still just as dope as something that was more complicated than that, and like keep it simple.
Go with the simple, yeah.
Yeah, because it's. I just love shit that sounds raw and like is just like the essence. You know what I mean? Like deep down low, if you hear the when it drops, it's like there's like 3 elements going on at the same time. It's like the bass noise, the drums, and the vocal, and like that's it, really.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not the most complicated record, no, but like does it bang? Like. I mean, I think people like it, so it's like I like it. I wouldn't put it out if I didn't think it was dope. So to answer your question, I guess in doing that and seeing the success that it had, it sort of reinforced the idea in my head that great music can be complex and playing like 50,000 notes in 3 seconds or whatever. But like, but it doesn't have to be. You can achieve something amazing in a really simple way.
And those are the best pop songs too, right? I mean, that's the key to writing a hit is keeping it simple.
That's a good point.
Keeping smaller, less elements,
Yeah.
more feeling. Well, and not to overshadow. I mean, you've put out so many records between the ones we've been talking about. You know, you've had a long career, and you're a road dog.
That sounds funny to say,
dude. It's true though, man. I don't know. Do you feel like you're still getting started?
Yeah, I do. Really.
Yeah.
That's the thing though. Is a lot of people they're like, oh, he just came up just like bam, like he just came up, like they don't really see like
and that's never the
hard
case.
work. No, like they don't. Nobody is there with you when you're like I'm talking about these 10 a.m. studio nights. 10 a.m. isn't night. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, So that's my point.
Yeah.
So nobody really sees that or sees the the grind of
and for years, right?
But I think for my just on a personal note, like we were talking about, me being versatile and not necessarily making the same thing over and over. I think that has created a bit of a longer climb for me. And I think at first people didn't really know who or what I was. Like, oh, he's the Moombahton guy. No, he's not. Okay.
Yeah,
oh, he's the trap guy. No, he's not.
It's harder to brand, right?
No, so now I think people have finally realized, like, oh, he just makes cool stuff. Like, it doesn't necessarily. It's not necessarily like I'm making one thing.
No, and like I said, man, I relate to that because I'm exactly the same way. Like, I can't make one thing over and over. Like I've tried, but I can't do it.
But but there's more longevity in that to me, is because you're not going with trends. You know what I'm saying? Like
no, shout out to the slow burn as far as careers go. No, for real though. I mean, I think there's value in it. I think you learn a lot by not kind of blowing up overnight. Yeah. Not that those
cool.
guys.
No,
are,
totally.
Yeah,
and it's cool to see artists evolve. Like, look at like a guy like Calvin Harris.
Yeah,
look at his earlier stuff was like really like raw and like kind of like indie rock, like I should say like dance rock ish a little bit. Like, and he was doing a lot of his own vocals. And then he like sort of evolved and was making like the biggest pop records with Rihanna. And then like the new shit like he's putting out, like the new album he's got is like if you listen to the shit he did with like the record he did with Future. And
the Frank Ocean record.
Like those are they're really like funky. They almost like kind of hip hop beats in a way. You know what I mean? Like
and super different from what he was doing
really,
before.
It's really interesting to see people evolve, you know. And I think that's what sets people aside from just being like, hey, I'm a guy and I'm just here, rather than being like, I'm an artist and you know what, like
you can
I'm
trust
gonna
me,
evolve and you're gonna come on this journey with me.
Right. Yeah, that's true. You bring people in. It's kind of a movement.
But you're staying true to yourself, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's why the fans that I personally have, I feel like they like me for me.
Yeah.
They just think, oh, he's good at what he does. You know what I mean? It's not like
I think everything you do is pretty authentic. Like that's what I was trying to get at earlier. Like you can just hear your personality in it, and even like Valentino's your real name, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and Khan last name.
Yeah.
So, dude, as Willy Joy, which is also my real name.
That's what because we were asking for. I was like, yo, did Willy send his real name for guest list? And he was like, yeah, he just said it was Willy Joy. I was like, I guess that could be his real name. And then I was like, I was going to ask you, that is your real name?
That's my real name, man.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So that's another connection, man. There's definitely some kind of kinship here. But no, man, I want to talk about the new record. I want to talk about Pump. Just came out a couple days ago. That's right. And how's the reaction been so far?
Out now, Mad Decent. It's been amazing. I can't believe the amount of like support I've gotten from like my peers already on it. It's been crazy over the last couple of days, especially like riding that wave into like the shows that I've been doing this weekend. It's been crazy to see like the fan reaction to it too, you know.
Is this kind of the first time you're playing it out, letting people hear it?
No, I've been playing it out, but nobody like knew what the fuck it was.
Sure, yeah.
But people like connect with it on a different level when they're able to have their hands on it and listen to it in their car, listen to it, you know, on the way to work, etc. You know what I mean? So I think it's one of those records, especially because it's got a cool vocal to it. It's like people can latch onto it a little more once they have the familiarity with it and they have it in their possession. You know, it's in Spotify for them, whether it's like in their iPhone. You know what I mean? It's
but no, man, it's an amazing record. Did you, some of those sounds, I mean, every time you put out a record, I hear some sounds I haven't heard before.
Yeah, I try to keep it like that.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes, man, because I never try to use the same synth over and over. So it's like, sometimes I'm like, why do I do this to myself? Like, But it's a goal of mine, man. I want it all to sound authentic and true to my vision, but at the same time, I don't want to repeat myself. What's the fucking point? You know what I mean? Like, you know, I have certain sounds that I've really pioneered, I guess, in my own world, and I don't want to like repeat myself. So I at least want like the synths to be different every time. Yeah,
well, it's a crazy record, man. I mean, I could see it being another big kind of crossover. Like, I could see the house guys playing it. I could see, the trap guy, anyone really. It's, I don't know, you do a good job of kind of straddling that line. And,
yeah, man.
Was that an intention, or was this kind of just another episode of you just doing something you thought was dope?
No, it wasn't really an intention. I just wanted to make another dope record that had those bass sounds and was kind of housey, you know?
Yeah. Well, and this is a return for you to Mad Decent too, right?
Yeah.
You did some records with Ausla, and now you're kind of coming back to where it started as far as the big indie dance labels.
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking about all those, early Mad Decent stories with Diplo and but we just put this out a couple days ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Full circle, man.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy. And you're about to leave for a big Euro tour as well.
That's right. So I'm like a few days. I fly out, start like pretty much like almost all the summer. I'm like in Europe.
Dude, I saw the routing. It's really nuts. Like, it's a big tour and bigger than I think a lot of people in our little subgenre or little world, whatever you want to call it, can do. Like, so props for that, because that's
thanks, man.
Europe is, I think, tougher for bass music right now.
It is, man. But I think because I've kind of been all over the place with my musical sound, it's like there's something for everybody over there. So like I think I'm really fortunate that like the European crowds have all latched on to me in a great way, where like I can do multiple runs in Europe and multiple tours in Europe every year now. I guess not a lot of people are able to do that, so I'm really fortunate that I am able to do that, and the fans over there are fucking crazy, so I love it every time.
Well, just to wrap this up, you were saying before you didn't have enough time to watch movies, but you do still somehow find time to watch a lot of wrestling.
Yes.
And I want to go into that real quick, because when I was a kid, like a little kid, probably like 10 years old, wrestling was my life. Like I was just obsessed.
really?
Yeah, obsessed with it.
What was your era? Like who?
So like Ultimate Warrior,
okay.
Hulk Hogan,
Macho Man.
Yeah, Andre the Giant. Like
Gotcha.
when he got body slammed, like that was like my era.
That was like a big moment.
Yeah, when Hulk Hogan body slammed, you're right there. So that was
Yeah.
my era. It was like late '90s, kind of.
Right.
No, not even like mid '90s. But as someone who follows it now, what's is it like a sport to you? Is it what is it about wrestling specifically that grabs you?
It's really, I mean, it's like obviously the veil, especially with the internet, especially with the internet now, the curtain has been pulled back from a lot of the way things work and,
Right.
and the storylines and the writing and the backstage
it's
workings of things.
It's more scripted, more entertainment.
People, I mean, everybody knows it's scripted, you know what I mean? But like, I've had the opportunity to like, be right there and like mingle with these guys that like fucking perform night in and night out, and it's a tough job, man.
Yeah.
Like these guys.
Oh, the toll it takes on your body.
The athleticism and the toll it takes on your body is very, very real. Like people don't understand. Like, and they're constantly traveling. Imagine like doing what we're doing.
Oh my God!
But you're getting fucking body slammed every night.
Yeah,
you're getting a chair hitting over your head.
Dude, because like we were saying,
you know what I mean? Like
we sweat when we perform, but it's not really that
they
serious.
sweat and get fucking hit with barbed wire in their eyeball. Like it's a little bit rougher.
And then they go to the next town. They do
and
it
then
again.
They got to fucking fly fly out at like 7 a.m.
Yeah. So you're appreciating the artistry of it.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate more like it sounds like really weird for me to say this, but I appreciate it from more like a backstage perspective where like I understand what's going on and I like watching the progression of like how things are happening and like the way they're like using the storylines. I really sort of appreciate it from like a writer's room perspective of it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
I guess that's the best way to put it.
Yeah. Behind the scenes. Like, Inside baseball. All of that.
Yeah. Going to it live is like there's nothing like it,
Man, I haven't been since I was a kid, but it really what it is like watching you watch it through Snapchat or whatever it is. It's inspiring, man. I was like, man, he's having so much fun. I should go back.
Yeah, man. Dude, it's shout out everybody at WWE. They're always like very nice and hospitable when I come.
Oh, they hook it up.
Yeah, everybody over there is mad cool. It's just, it's so fucking fun every time.
Well, and it's, your presence on social media I love too, because it's, again, I think it's just authentic to your personality.
Totally, man.
And it's really fun to watch and just see it through your eyes. And for me, like, I have trouble with social media. Like, I just never feel like I want to put whatever I'm doing, in Snapchat or in just online in general.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, like, I like to crack jokes. I like to do fun shit. And so I watch yours and I get kind of inspired of like, maybe that's a way I could do it that just feels authentic and, people can have fun with.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. How, for you, social media, like, do you feel the need to do it or does it just kind of come naturally?
No, it kind of comes naturally. I was always like, my whole goal is just to like, I just want to like be me and like, I just look at it as like sharing my unique experiences of life with whoever's watching it.
Yeah. Well, it's infectious, man. I think you're doing it the right way.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Well, anything else you want to get out there before we wrap this up?
No, it's great to fucking chop it up with you, man.
Yeah, man.
Like,
this has been awesome.
Yeah, I'll self-promote my new single, Pump, is out now on Mad Decent.
Yeah, go get that.
Out everywhere, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon, probably somewhere on MySpace or some shit.
LimeWire.
Don't get it from LimeWire.
Napster.
Isn't Napster like all legal now? It's like
I think it is.
There's no piracy on Napster.
Yeah. It's amazing that it even still exists.
I know, right?
Yeah. But no, man, thank you for coming through. It's always good to chop it up with you, man. And I think the theme throughout this whole interview, it's just been, you've been doing you and doing what you thought was dope since day one. And I think that's something our listeners could take a lesson from. And man, I'm glad you're here doing it. I'm always psyched to hear your new tunes. Thanks for coming through.
Dude, thanks for having me. This was great.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
Peace.
All right, that's the show, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I want to thank Valentino for coming through. I really, really enjoyed this conversation with him. I hope you guys did as well. We had a lot of fun doing it. Don't forget, Valentino's new single, Pump, is out right now on Mad Decent. Go get that. It's one of the craziest songs out right now. Really big DJ support, and you should be supporting it too. If you're in Europe, don't forget to catch him on tour. Go to his website, ValentinoKhan.com, for all those tour dates. And that's about it, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the show. Don't forget to leave us a rating, a review, a comment. We want to hear from you. My name is Willy Joy. You can follow me on all social media at Willy Joy. That's Willy with a Y. I don't know why some of you guys keep wanting to spell it with an IE, but that's not me, man. That's not me. And coming up in July, we have some crazy guests for you guys. The first one, I'll tell you, on Independence Day, July 4th, we got Benzie coming through, and I'll let you guys know about the rest of the guests real soon. I hope you guys have a good July 4th weekend. My name is Willy Joy. This is Back to Back, and I'll talk to you next week. Peace.